Professor Bola Akinterinwa joins us now. He's the Director General, Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. Thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Well, that accord that was signed in the embassy, and then the Minister of Foreign Affairs also addressing the international community, saying that, yes, we understand how concerned you all are about elections, but he was kind of warning them to watch their utterances and just stay clear of our internal affairs. Was that surprising or shocking to you? It's just normal in this international diplomacy?
No, I wouldn't say it's normal. But Nigeria has certainly acted within the framework of the principle of sovereign equality. Nigeria is a sovereign country, and there's no basis for any accredited ambassador to Nigeria to be dictating to Nigeria as to what the country should be doing and how it should be done. So it's not a question of routine. I think what the government of Nigeria has done is simply to draw attention of the plenipotentiaries accredited to Nigeria to draw a line between acceptable, interferences and inadmissible interference in what constitutes domestic affairs. And I think to that extent, we've done very well by drawing attention to it, because that's not the convention. That's not the practice.
What is the practice?
First of all, it is important to distinguish between what constitutes an interference and what constitutes an intervention. Some observers do use the two words interchangeably, but they do not mean the same thing when it comes to diplomatic practice. Intervention is one way of prognosing into an affairs that do not belong to you. It's not your responsibility. But using force, when you apply force, then you must be talking about intervention. But in the absence of use of force, you should be talking about interference. And at the level of interference, in general practice, everybody interferes in one way or the other. When you make a comment about a country, you are interfering. So we distinguish between admissible and inadmissible interference. So what is happening in the context of Nigeria's complaint is that some envoys, some ambassadors have gone beyond the limit of admissible interference. Now the question you are asking, what is admissible? What's the general practice? Please, the issue is that you can make comments. You can say whatever you have for as long as it remains an idea for the purposes of exchanging ideas and ensuring a better understanding of one another. But the moment you go beyond that, go beyond what is provided for in Article 2, Paragraph 7 of the UN Charter, which talks about non-intervention. And non-intervention in that particular paragraph is synonymous with both interference and intervention. Then it is not acceptable. Ambassadors can make comments, but when it comes to what we call exclusive domestic competence of the state, which is about how you organize yourselves, how you govern the country, what is peculiar to you as a people, as a culture, you don't go into that. But where, for instance, it was the case, in the statement made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, no ambassador, no specific envoy was named. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the antecedents, you will know that the U.S. ambassador has been making some pronouncements, all right? And the pronouncements go beyond, acceptable limits of interferences. For instance, you will understand my position if you seek understanding of the dynamics of interference. For instance, the dynamics. One, the most critical dynamic of non-interference is the extent to which you have been invited to come in. In other words, intervention wouldn't mean anything if you have been expressly invited. So you talk about invited interference. The US, the envoys have not been invited. The statement by the Minister of Foreign Affairs is another way of saying, look, we do not want this type of interference in which you are engaged.
Which one of the statements would you say was an interference?
This is it.
Is it the one by the U.S. Secretary of State,
John Kerry?
Yeah. Or I don't know that the U.S. envoy here in Nigeria released another statement after the one.
No, it has always been there. Immediately after postponement, for instance, John Kerry made a statement over there.
Yes.
The statement itself can be seen at two levels. Advisory. Advising us, do this, do that one, so that we do not run into unnecessary problems. Mm-hmm. But the manner, the verticality of the text, all right, of the message given,
saying that they were deeply disappointed by the fact that the elections were postponed.
No, it's not just the disappointment. There's nothing wrong if you are disappointment. The disappointment is at your own level. But by the time you are now telling Nigeria that you must, grammatically the word must, shall, will, these are words that are compelling in character. So John Kerry told Nigeria that you must not, and this election must be better than what it used to be in 2011. So by the time the U.S. is now pontificating, then you are now at the level, all right, of interference. You cannot tell Nigeria, all right, you must not do this.
Even if that's how we feel, in terms of, for instance, you say the elections must be better than what was conducted in 2011, that should be taken for granted, shouldn't it?
No, you can take it for granted. A Nigerian, as a Nigerian, I can tell my president anything because he's my president. Mr. President, you cannot do this, you cannot do that one. But I wouldn't easily accept that a foreigner will now come and tell my president the same thing. No, I won't accept that. I can criticize my president because he's my president. But I will not condone any foreigner, in fact, any African, not to talk about extra-African citizens of the world, to say the same thing.